1. We're checking out this sweet 1979 Chevy Silverado that just popped up on Craigslist in Perris, California. Let me tell you, for a 44-year-old truck, this blue beauty is asking $12,500. And honestly, that's not crazy for the current classic truck market. We're looking at a clean title C10 with the reliable 350 V8 under the hood. That's what most 79s came with, paired with an automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive, a classic combination that's proven its worth over decades. The odometer shows 92,000 miles, which is pretty reasonable for its age. The seller seems pretty confident about its condition, listing it as excellent, and they're being straight up about the sale. No trades, no time wasters, and they're not entertaining lowball offers. These old square-body Chevys have been climbing in value lately, and while $12,500 might seem steep to some, clean examples are getting harder to find. The seller prefers calls over texts, which usually means they're serious about finding the right buyer. The 79 Silverado was part of the third-generation CK series, and these trucks have developed quite a following in the classic truck community. Just remember, even with excellent condition claims, it's always smart to check it out in person. These are still 40-plus-year-old trucks, and they all have their own stories to tell. But if it's as good as described, it could be a solid investment in today's market. 2. We're looking at a pretty interesting find. A 1973 GMC 1500 that's caught my attention. At $7,000, this classic truck seems to be priced pretty reasonably in today's market, especially with what the seller's claiming. Now let me tell you what makes this one intriguing. They're saying it's got just 17,000 original miles, which, if true, is incredibly low for a 50-year-old truck. The seller's been pretty thorough in listing recent mechanical work. We're talking about a rebuilt carb, new shocks, fresh brakes, new spark plugs and wires, and a new clutch. It's got a manual transmission, which is always fun in these old trucks, and apparently it's proven itself reliable with a successful California road trip. What's particularly interesting is that everything under the truck is supposedly new, which could mean less rust and better structural integrity. However, folks, I've got to keep it real with you. When dealing with any 50-year-old vehicle, especially one priced this affordably, you'll want to verify that mileage claim and inspect all the work that's been done. The "need gone ASAP" comment might suggest some room for negotiation, but overall, if everything checks out as described, $7,000 for a running, driving 73 GMC with recent mechanical work isn't bad at all in today's classic truck market. These old GMCs are getting harder to find, especially ones that haven't been modified to death. Just remember to give it a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger. 3. We're checking out something special. A 1970 Chevy C10 pickup that's catching eyes with its yellow paint job and asking $25,000. Now, before you get sticker shock, let me break down why this price might actually make sense in today's classic truck market. This C10 appears to be a seriously well-maintained example with 91,344 miles on the clock. Under the hood, we've got the classic 350 V8, but it's been upgraded with some tasty performance parts, an Edelbrock high-rise manifold and 4-barrel carburetor, which should give this truck some nice additional power. The sellers equipped it with power steering and front power disc brakes, making it much more comfortable and safer to drive than a stock 70 C10. What's really catching my attention is the seller's description of the body condition. They're claiming it's super straight, with near-flawless paint and excellent chrome and glass. These early C10s are notorious for rust issues, so finding one this clean is becoming increasingly rare. The fact that it's got a clean title and the seller provides the VIN right in the ad shows transparency. At $25,000, we're definitely in the upper tier of C10 pricing, but given the current market for these classic trucks, especially ones in excellent condition with desirable upgrades, it's not outrageous. These trucks have seen significant value increases over the past few years, and clean examples are getting harder to find. Remember though, as with any classic vehicle purchase, a thorough in-person inspection is essential to verify all these claims. If everything checks out as described, this could be a solid investment in the increasingly popular classic truck market. 4. We're looking at something really special. a 1972 Ford F-250 Ranger XLT Camper Special that's popped up for $15,500 in Arizona. This isn't just any old F-250, folks. We're talking about a legitimate barn find with some seriously cool factory options that make it stand out from the crowd. Let's dive into what makes this truck unique. First off, it's got the rare factory power pack option with an Onan electric generator. That's not something you see every day. It's a Phoenix-born truck with the 390 V8. And here's where it gets interesting. The engine was rebuilt at 100K miles with some pretty sweet upgrades. We're talking about a 66 Fairlane GT 390 cam, a 428 Cobra Jet oil pump, and it's been bored .030 over for more power. The transmission was also rebuilt at 112K miles, and they've got the documentation to prove both rebuilds. At $15,500, considering the rare options, documented history, and the fact it's a one-owner Arizona truck, meaning likely minimal rust, this price seems pretty fair in today's market. The seller's detailed description and honesty about it not being a daily driver, but rather a stored vehicle, adds credibility. For someone looking for a unique piece of Ford truck history with some thoughtful performance upgrades, this could be a really interesting find. Just remember to verify all those rare options and documentation in person. 5. We're looking at a 1973 Ford F-254 X4 that's got an interesting story to tell. Let me be completely honest with you. This is a project truck being offered at $5,000, and the seller is refreshingly upfront about its condition. This F-250 has been used as a work truck, and it shows. The seller admits they've never actually driven it themselves, which is something you don't hear often. They did invest about $2,700 at Midas for a major tune-up and brake work to make it roadworthy. But here's the real talk. It needs more work. The truck comes with a rack and a lift kit, with the original tailgate included, and it's got the desirable 4x4 setup with a manual transmission and V8 power. What I really appreciate here is the seller's honesty. They straight up tell us this isn't ideal for a daily driver and needs new tires at minimum. The odometer shows 100K miles, and the condition is listed as fair. That's probably being realistic given its work truck history. At $5,000, you're getting an old-school 4x4 F-250 that's had some recent mechanical attention, but still needs work. These trucks have good potential for restoration, and the seller acknowledges it could be worth quite a bit more when properly restored. If you're looking for a project truck with good bones and don't mind putting in some work, this could be an interesting starting point. Just remember, go into this one with your eyes wide open and expect to invest more time and money to bring it back to its former glory. 6. We're checking out a sweet 1972 Chevy C10 Cheyenne that's up for grabs at McManus Motors in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, asking $17,500. Let me tell you why this truck is catching my attention. This is a proper C10 with the desirable Cheyenne trim package, which was the upscale version back in '72. Under the hood, you're getting the legendary 350 cubic inch 5.7L small block V8, one of Chevy's most reliable and easily modifiable engines ever made. It's paired with an automatic transmission, making it a comfortable cruiser, and being a rear-wheel drive setup, it maintains that classic truck feel without the complexity of 4x4 systems. Now, at $17,500, we're in the middle range for these C10s in today's market. The Cheyenne package definitely adds value, as it came with more refined interior touches and extra trim pieces that make these trucks stand out. Being offered by a dealer rather than a private seller suggests it's probably been gone through mechanically, though you'll always want to verify that. What makes these '72 C10s particularly appealing is their classic styling. They've got those clean, straight body lines that have aged beautifully, and they're becoming increasingly popular as collectibles. Whether you're looking for a show truck, a restoration project, or just a cool classic daily driver, these trucks are versatile enough to fit any of those roles. Plus, parts availability is excellent, and there's a huge community of enthusiasts supporting these vehicles. 7. We're looking at a really interesting 1965 Chevy C10 that's caught my eye at $17,500. This isn't just any old C10. We're talking about a long bed with the desirable big back window option, which adds both practicality and style points to these classic trucks. What makes this one special is its powertrain combo. It's running the original 283 V8 engine, paired with a Muncie 4-speed manual transmission. That floor-shifted manual setup is something you don't see every day in these trucks, and it definitely adds to the fun factor. The odometer shows 50,000 miles, and while we always take classic car mileage with a grain of salt, what's really impressive is that the seller has kept all the original manuals and documentation of mechanical work. That's gold in the classic truck world. The truck wears a blue paint job and is listed in good condition with a clean title. At $17,500, we're in the upper middle range for 65 C10S, but the big back window, original powertrain, and documented history could justify the price in today's market. These first-gen C10S have been climbing in value, especially original examples with desirable options. What I really appreciate here is the straightforward nature of the listing. No wild claims, just a clean, apparently well-maintained classic truck with its original power plant still doing its thing. For someone looking for a piece of classic Chevy truck history that they can actually drive and enjoy, this could be a solid choice. Just remember to check all that documentation and give it a thorough inspection in person. 8. We're looking at something really special. A 1972 Chevy C20 that's asking $22,500. And let me tell you why this one's worth talking about. This is a factory orange and black beauty with just 43,691 miles. And the seller's documentation of work done is impressively thorough. What makes this truck stand out is its provenance. It came from an 85-year-old original owner, and it's got some desirable factory options including power steering, power brakes, and factory AC. The current owner has gone through this truck with a fine-tooth comb, and the list of recent work is extensive. Let's talk about all the fresh components. New interior work including carpet, seat foam, and black upholstery from Classic Industries, new timing chain, water pump, power steering pump, dual stainless exhaust, and a professionally rebuilt Rochester carburetor. The truck's rolling on 15x8 powder-coated wheels, painted Chevy orange, with new Goodyear Wrangler Workhorse AT tires. They've even taken care of the small details like new door handles, LED running lights, and a period-correct rubber floor mat. At $22,500, we're definitely in the upper tier of C20 pricing. But consider what you're getting. A well-documented, mechanically refreshed example with desirable factory options and tons of recent work. What's particularly impressive is that the seller has kept many of the original parts, showing real attention to preservation. Plus, they're even including new brake calipers that haven't been installed yet. 9. We're checking out a 1977 Chevy K20 that's caught my attention at $7,000. Let's be real here. The seller's being upfront about the odometer having rolled over, so we're looking at more than the 78,000 miles shown, which is pretty typical for these old workhorses. This is a proper 3/4-ton 4x4 with the reliable 350 V8 and automatic transmission combo. The seller's keeping it pretty straightforward. It's all original, which can be both good and bad depending on how you look at it. They've added some practical upgrades like new tires and a step bumper with a hitch, and it's got some nice features like dual fuel tanks and a sliding rear window. At $7,000, we're in the reasonable range for a running, driving K20 from this era. These square-body Chevys are getting more popular, but this one's priced as a driver rather than a showpiece. The seller lists it in good condition, and it's wearing red paint. Though being a 77, I'd expect some wear and tear consistent with its age. Look, if you're in the market for a classic 4x4 work truck that you can actually use without worrying about keeping it perfect, this could be a solid choice. These K20S are known for their durability, and the 350 auto combination is about as reliable and easy to work on as they come. Just remember, with any 45-year-old truck, you'll want to give it a thorough inspection and probably plan on doing some maintenance. But hey, that's part of the charm with these old trucks. 10. We're looking at a 1978 GMC Sierra Classic that's on the market for $9,000. And I've got to keep it real with you about this one. The seller's being honest by listing it in fair condition. which is refreshing to see in today's market. This is a long bed model in green, showing 125,710 miles on the clock. What makes this Sierra interesting is that it's got some luxury touches for its era. Power windows and power locks weren't common on trucks back in '78, so that's a nice bonus. It comes with a toolbox, which adds some practical utility. Now let's be straight here. At $9,000, we're in the middle range for these late '70s GMC trucks. And the fair condition rating suggests this isn't a pristine example. The seller's brief description and admission that it's not practical for me at the moment might indicate there could be some room for negotiation. These square-body GMCs are gaining popularity among collectors and enthusiasts, but this one seems to be priced more as a driver than a showpiece. If you're looking for an old-school truck with some nice power options, and don't mind dealing with the quirks of a 45-year-old vehicle, this could be worth checking out. Just remember to give it a thorough inspection. Fair condition usually means there's some work needed, so factor that into your budget calculations. 11. We're checking out a 1968 Ford F-250 that's on the market for $11,000. And this one's got an interesting story to tell. The current owner has clearly been taking care of this classic, putting about 500 miles a year on it over their 5-year ownership. Let's talk about what makes this truck interesting. The seller has invested in some significant upgrades and maintenance items that really matter. We're looking at a truck with 95,350 miles that's received a lot of attention to the important stuff. New brakes all around, a fresh steering box with new hoses, new radiator, and they've even had the drive shaft balanced with new U-joints. Those are exactly the kind of upgrades you want to see on a classic truck because they make it actually usable and reliable. The interior has been refurbished, and it's riding on newer tires with only about 1,000 miles on them. A nice performance touch is the ceramic headers installed by the previous owner, which should give it a proper vintage truck rumble. The truck also comes with a new battery, which is always a plus. At $11,000, considering the current market for classic trucks and all the recent work that's been done, this could be a solid buy. What I particularly like is that the upgrades focus on drivability and reliability rather than just cosmetics. For someone looking for a classic F-250 that's been maintained and upgraded thoughtfully, this could be worth checking out. These late '60s Fords are getting harder to find, especially ones that have had this level of mechanical attention. 12. We're looking at something pretty wild, a 1985 Chevy S10 that's had some serious modifications, asking $4,900. This isn't your typical S10, folks. Someone stuffed a 350 V8 under the hood of this little truck, which is a popular and pretty awesome swap for these lightweight pickups. What we've got here is a short bed S10 that's been turned into a proper hot rod. The 350 V8 is breathing through a 4-barrel carb and exhaling through dual exhaust, backed by a turbo 350 automatic transmission. That's a tried and true combination that should make this little truck seriously quick. It's sitting low on polished American wheels, giving it that classic mini truck stance. The odometer shows 87,000 miles, though with modified vehicles like this, the mileage is often less relevant than the condition of the modifications. At $4,900, we're in reasonable territory for a V8 swapped S10, especially one that's described as running and driving good. Look, if you're in the market for a fun, modified mini truck that can probably surprise a lot of people at stoplights, this could be a blast. Just remember, this is a modified vehicle with a lot more power than it came with from the factory. So you'll want to check out how well the swap was done and make sure everything's been properly reinforced to handle that V8 power. But man, for the money, this could be a really fun little tire shredder. 13. We're looking at something really special, a 1959 GMC Apache that's up for grabs at $16,000. Now, I've got to say, the seller's description is about as brief as they come, with just nice truck and a few basic details. But let's talk about what makes these trucks significant. This Apache is running a V8 with an automatic transmission, which makes it a bit more practical for modern driving than the manual versions. The seller notes it's wearing blue paint and is listed in good condition, though they're upfront about the odometer being broken. Pretty common for vehicles of this vintage. The 80,000 miles shown? Well, Take that with a grain of salt. At $16,000, we're in the middle range for 59 Apaches in today's market. These trucks are becoming increasingly collectible, representing the peak of 1950s automotive design with their distinctive wraparound windshield, broad grille, and those fantastic jet-age styling cues. Here's the thing though. The seller's ultra-brief description means you'll really want to do your homework in person. These old trucks can hide rust in some tricky places, and without more details about mechanical condition or restoration history, you'll need to give it a thorough inspection. But if everything checks out, these Apaches make fantastic classic trucks that turn heads everywhere they go. Just remember, you're buying a 64-year-old vehicle, so plan accordingly for maintenance and potential repairs. 14. We're looking at a 1979 GMC Stepside that's got a touching story behind it. It's a father's truck being sold by their child for $7,900. These old Stepsides are getting harder to find, especially in solid condition, and this one seems to have been spared the usual rust issues that plague these trucks. What's particularly interesting here is that despite sitting for a while, the truck fired right up with just a new battery and some fresh gas. That's usually a good sign of a well-maintained vehicle. The odometer shows 85,000 miles, and it's equipped with an automatic transmission, making it an easier classic to live with. Let's be real here. The seller's emotional connection to the truck is clear in their description, and the fact that they're only selling because they're moving adds some authenticity to the story. At $7,900, we're in reasonable territory for a running, rust-free 79 Stepside in today's market, especially considering how these square-body trucks have been climbing in value. If you're in the market for a classic GMC Stepside, this could be worth checking out. The combination of being a family-owned truck and reportedly rust-free makes it interesting. However, since it's been sitting, you'll want to give it a thorough inspection and probably plan on doing some basic maintenance to get it back to daily driver status. These old GMCs are pretty straightforward to work on, and parts availability is generally good. Just remember, when a vehicle's been sitting, there's usually a few surprises waiting to be discovered. 15. We're looking at a 1967 Ford F100 that's priced at $3,000. And let me tell you, the seller is refreshingly honest about this truck's condition. Let's break down what we're dealing with here. This is a 390 V8/automatic combo F100 in green. And while the seller says it's in good condition overall, they're upfront about its issues. The truck hasn't run in 5 years, though they think the engine's still good. And it needs a complete brake job. The body's described as pretty dang straight, which is promising, though there's damage to the front grille and headlights. Now, let's talk about the rust situation. They mention it's got little cancer under both pans, but claim it's minor. And importantly, the bed is rust-free. The interior's pretty okay with a cooked dash, but it has a cover. And there are some owner mods to the door pulls. The tires are shot, and it'll need to be towed. At $3,000 OBO, we're in project truck territory here, folks. But here's why it might be interesting. It's got the desirable 390 V8, a reportedly straight body, and minimal rust for its age. These 67 F100S are getting harder to find, especially with the bigger engine option. Plus, the seller's being super straightforward about the paperwork situation. It's an inheritance truck with a clean title and proper transfer documents. 16. We're checking out a 1972 Ford F100 that's asking $7,000. And this one's got some interesting upgrades worth talking about. While the odometer's broken, pretty common for these old trucks, what matters more is what's been done to it. Under the hood, you've got a rebuilt 390 V8, which is a strong engine choice for these trucks. It's been modernized with an electronic ignition system, which helps with reliability and easier starting. The transmission setup is particularly interesting. It's got a 5-speed manual, which is likely an upgrade from the original and makes this truck much more usable in modern traffic. The 3.89 limited slip rear end is a great ratio for this setup, offering a nice balance of acceleration and highway cruising ability. Some solid practical upgrades include power steering and power brakes, not always a given on trucks of this era, and they've installed a new wiring harness. That's a big deal because electrical issues are common on old vehicles. The truck's riding on 16-inch wheels with 10-ply tires, suggesting it's set up for some serious hauling capability. At $7,000, considering the rebuilt engine, upgraded transmission, and new wiring harness, we're looking at a fair price in today's market. The seller lists it in excellent condition, and while it's wearing white paint, the mechanical upgrades are really what make this truck interesting. For someone looking for a classic F100 that's been thoughtfully upgraded for better drivability, this could be a solid choice. Just remember to verify all those upgrades and the condition of that engine rebuild when you check it out. 17. We're looking at a 1965 Chevy C10 short bed that's asking $18,000, and being a California truck, that's already a good start since these southern trucks typically avoid the rust issues that plague others. This C10's running the classic 350 V8 paired with a TH350 automatic transmission. That's a combination that's proven reliable for decades and is super easy to work on or modify if you're so inclined. The sellers added some nice modern upgrades that really improve the driving experience: power steering and disc brakes. These are exactly the kind of modifications you want in a classic truck if you're planning to actually drive it regularly. The odometer shows 54,666 miles, though as with most classics, that number is less important than the overall condition. The seller describes it as a good driver, which is refreshingly straightforward. They're not trying to oversell it as a show truck, but rather as a solid, usable classic. At $18,000, we're in the upper middle range for 65 C10 short beds. But these trucks have been steadily climbing in value. The short bed configuration is more desirable than the long bed, and the combination of being a California truck with practical upgrades makes this interesting. If you're looking for a classic C10 that you can actually drive and enjoy without worrying about perfect originality, this could be worth checking out. Just remember to verify the quality of those upgrades and the overall condition in person. 18. We're checking out a 1965 Ford F100 short bed that's up for grabs in Farmington, New Mexico, asking $14,500. Let's talk about what makes these old Fords special. This is a short bed model, which is generally more desirable than the long bed versions. And it's got the classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's the original column-shifted 3-speed that these trucks came with. The odometer shows 65,432 miles, though as with most classics of this age, that number is less significant than the overall condition. The seller keeps it pretty brief, simply stating it runs and drives great, and they're open to trades. Being from New Mexico, there's a good chance this truck has avoided the serious rust issues that often plague these old workhorses in wetter climates. At $14,500, we're in the middle range for 65 F100 short beds in today's market. These trucks have been gaining popularity among collectors, especially original examples with the short bed configuration. The 3-speed manual might not be as convenient as a modern transmission, but it's part of the authentic vintage truck experience. If you're in the market for a classic F100 that you can actually drive and enjoy, this could be worth checking out. Just remember to give it a thorough inspection. The seller's brief description means you'll want to verify everything in person. These old Fords are generally pretty simple to work on, and parts availability is still good, making them practical classics to own and maintain. 19. We're looking at a pretty sweet 1978 Dodge Power Wagon that's asking $17,500. And this one's got some interesting features worth talking about. It's a short bed 4x4 model, which is always desirable, and it's wearing its original brown paint and body. That's getting rare to find these days. Under the hood, you've got the original 318 V8 5.2L that's been overhauled, paired with an automatic transmission. What's cool is that this truck still has its factory AC, a nice luxury feature for a 78 truck. The sellers invested in some meaningful upgrades, including a new rough country 4-inch lift suspension setup, new wheels and tires, and a fresh fuel system. While the odometer's broken, showing 85,000 miles, what's more important here is the combination of original features and thoughtful upgrades. These late 70s Power Wagons are getting harder to find, especially with original paint and bodywork. The 318 is a robust engine that's known for reliability, and having it overhauled is a big plus. At $17,500, We're in the upper range for these trucks, but consider what you're getting. An original body power wagon with modern suspension upgrades, fresh mechanical work, and factory AC. These Dodge trucks have been climbing in value as people realize how cool they are, and finding one that's both original and upgraded for better usability isn't easy. 20. We're looking at a seriously modified 1966 Chevy C10 that's asking $24,500. And let me tell you, this isn't your average classic truck. This is a build that combines classic looks with modern performance, and there's a lot to unpack here. Let's start with the power plant. We're talking about a 383 stroker that's been dyno-proven at 410 horsepower with less than 2,500 miles since the rebuild. That's paired with a brand new Tremec 5-speed manual transmission and a fresh clutch setup. A modern drivetrain combo that makes this truck seriously capable. The 12-bolt rear end is a strong choice to handle all that power. The truck's finished in Hugger orange with a gray interior, and it's got some serious upgrades throughout. We're looking at power front disc brakes, an airbag suspension system for adjustable ride height, and a custom wood bed. The sellers added some nice touches like a truck toolbox, tachometer, and gauges, and it's rolling on rally wheels wrapped in BF Goodrich tires. The electric fan is a smart addition for keeping that stroker motor cool. At $24,500, we're definitely in the upper range for C10S, but consider what you're getting. A professionally built truck with serious performance credentials and modern drivability upgrades. The odometer's broken, but that's less relevant given the extensive modifications and rebuilds.